Hey guys, and welcome to our Unit 10 grammar lessons. This is Unit 10, Lesson 1, Subordinate Clauses. And so our goal here is to recognize subordinate clauses and to use them to combine sentences. So here's an example of a question you might see asking you about subordinate clauses. Which answer choice combines the following sentences using a subordinate clause? We've got the two sentences here. My little brother is always getting into things. My little brother is a typical toddler. All right, here we choose B. I would say because he is a typical toddler, my little brother is always getting into things. So before we talk about why that's correct, let's talk about what subordinate clauses are and how we use them to combine sentences. All right, so a subordinate clause is a clause that begins with a subordinating conjunction or a relative pronoun. I remember from a few lessons back, a clause is a collection of words with a subject-verb connection. So we have to have a subject and a verb in our clause. Otherwise, it's a phrase. And we're talking about beginning here with a subordinating conjunction or a relative pronoun. So subordinating conjunctions, remember conjunctions combine things. And so those subordinating conjunctions are words like after, although, because, unless, until. And our relative pronouns are words like who and whom, whose, which, that, where, when, why, and what. So we need our subordinate clause has to start with a word from either of those two groups. Subordinate clauses have three possible functions here. All right, they can be an adverb clause. I mean, they function together as an adverb, the words in that clause, and they tell us when, where, why, how, etc. So again, adverbs describe verbs, adjectives, and other adverbs. So that clause would be doing that. Now, they can be an adjective clause, which describes a thing or tells which one. So it could be modifying a noun. And it can also be a noun clause, in which case that whole clause is a thing. It functions as a noun. So those are the three different things our subordinate clauses can be doing in a sentence. Important to know they don't stand on their own as sentences. So they have to be combined with an independent clause. Otherwise, you've got a sentence fragment, which is something that sounds kind of like a sentence, but doesn't create a complete thought or idea. Right? It kind of sounds right, but kind of doesn't, and it can be confusing. So this is why they're called subordinate clauses. Right? They are subordinate to the independent clause. So if we look at that earlier example, we have these two sentences. My little brother is always getting into things. My little brother is a typical toddler. And so we use that subordinating conjunction from that list earlier. So we're going to say because he is a typical toddler, my little brother is always getting into things. And important to know here that if we put, because this is a dependent clause, subordinate clauses are dependent. Right? If it goes first, we need that comma there before our main independent clause. So to sum it up, a subordinate clause is a clause that begins with subordinating conjunction or relative pronoun. It can function as an adverb, adjective, or noun clause. And they do not stand on their own as sentences. They have to be combined with an independent clause. Otherwise, you've got a sentence fragment, which might be unclear to your reader. Okay, so those are your main takeaways here for subordinate clauses. Those are the things you really need to remember.